Hey everybody, and welcome back to Learn Davinci Resolve. I'm Kerry Garrison, and today I'm going to show you 3D rendered text and motion tracking at the same time so that we can achieve very, very cool effects just like this, where it looks like the text is in the scene and it moves right along with the rest of the footage. So some very cool stuff. So stay right there. We'll be right back. Okay, so one of the things that I always love to do, or always wanted to do really well, I should say, is motion tracking with 3D titles. The first time I really saw it that I was impressed was on the TV show Naked and Afraid. They have really cool titles that like are hidden in the bushes and stuff. Very cool stuff. I always wanted to pull stuff off like that. And while you can do it in After Effects, and it's not horribly difficult, I had switched over to Resolve. So I wanted to use Fusion. And Fusion to me was just so complicated to figure out. There were no good tutorials anywhere. It was very difficult to learn how to use. Well, now that it's in Resolve and it's just built in there, I'm like, okay, I have no excuse. I really need to learn this. And I start reading the books on it, and I'm going to classes for it. And so now I'm absolutely loving it. So I have this little piece of footage here that we're going to do some motion tracking to and see what we can get. So first off, I just want to give this thing a quick little color grade. The footage looks really bland, and I want to kind of match some stuff to it. So I'm going to do that, and I'll just throw on a quick LUT, and we'll boost some saturation up here because this was late in the afternoon, so I have some cool afternoon sun coming in with this golden color. So we're going to use that to our advantage. So next I'm going to bounce over to the Fusion tab. Now, don't try and get intimidated. Don't overthink this. It's not that difficult if we just kind of take it one step at a time. So when we go into the Fusion tab, we have our input and our output, media in and media out. So media in is the footage coming into Fusion. Media out is the result of all the changes going back out to Resolve. So keep that in mind. And we just need to do a few little things here. So first off, I'm going to hit Shift Space, and I'm going to type TRA, go to the tracker. It's going to add a tracker node. This is what we're going to use to actually track the movement of the building so that we can then map the text to it. Now I know this is a little hard to see, but right here you see tracker 1 in this very, very pale shade of green that is kind of difficult to see. So what I'm going to do is, if you kind of look close, let me go ahead and zoom in here so we can kind of see what this thing looks like. Okay, again, a little difficult to see because it's really thin and it's not very bright. So we have two boxes. The inside box is what is it we're going to track, the actual piece that we're going to track. The outside box, the outside perimeter there, is where do I expect to find it? So if it's moving quickly and things, you need to move that box, make it bigger or smaller, depending on what you're doing. The smaller the box is, the faster the tracking is going to be. You have a really big box, you're trying to track an entire car, it literally can take hours. If you do something smaller and it's less work on the system, it can take minutes. So what we're going to do, we're going to set 4 tracking points on here, and this is my normal machine that I do all the demos on, a 2016 MacBook Pro 13-inch, very low-end video card, so you can see the actual results, and the tracking should literally only take 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes. So it's not going to be that bad. So what are we going to do? If you kind of look close where the cursor is, right in here, there's a little dot. That's how we move the anchor point. So if you move over it, it kind of turns white. So I'm going to grab it. It's going to enlarge so I can see what I'm doing. And I want to position the crosshairs right on the point of maximum contrast. That's going to give me the best results. And again, this isn't very big, it's not moving very much, so I don't need very big windows around it. All right, I've got one tracking point done. So now I'm just going to rough the other ones and then zoom in and get them done. So over here on my tracking panel, I'm going to add another one, grab it, and I'm not going to get super accurate yet. I'll do that in just a moment. Get my tracker 3, throw it somewhere in here, and tracker 4, and throw that over here. Now I'm going to actually zoom in and fine tune those spots. So I've got my upper right hand corner here. I did a decent job on it, but I want the area of most contrast. Again, I'm going to make it a little smaller. I'm going to move these boxes so that they're not as big, so it's less work for the computer. Scroll down, do the same thing on here. Again, area of high contrast. Adjust my box, adjust my search area. I'm going to scroll over to the other one. And I didn't do too bad of a job there, but I'm going to go ahead and shrink it, grab it, make sure it's positioned best possible spot, and again, shrink down my search box. All right, let's zoom out. Go to fit. So now I can see what's going on here. In fact, I'm going to get rid of some stuff here so we can see it a little bit bigger. So I got my 4 tracking points here. Now I'm just going to tell it to go track it. So back to the inspector, and I'm going to use this icon all the way on the right, which is track from beginning to end. So I'm just going to go ahead and click that. And depending on the speed of your machine, you may see more or less movement on here. Sometimes it'll just shrink everything down to a small area for it to track, but you should see some movement of those tracking points so that you know it's doing something. If we look all the way down here at the bottom of the screen, last frame took 0.7772 seconds, 8.8 seconds, average is 1.2 frames a second, remaining time 1 minute and 35 seconds. So even on a slow machine, this particular type of tracking doesn't really take that long. It's not that bad of a process. It is a little bit faster on my 5K iMac, I'll give it that, but on an old MacBook like this, I mean, it's only a 2-year-old MacBook, but it's the 13-inch, it's not the faster 15-inch one, it still does a pretty decent job. And you can see it's only going to take about 1.5 minutes. So instead of boring you talking, I'm just going to go ahead and fast forward here till it's finished. Okay, it's almost done here. Now there are some options that you can set over here that if you're having issues, try changing things. There we go. It took 1 minute, 51 seconds. None, every frame, and best match. If I end up with a little bit of drift here or there, I often go back and try every frame, and that will usually fix it. It's more processor work, so it's going to take longer, but sometimes that does a better job. And the path center, I've never needed to change that off pattern center. It's always worked just fine, so not overly concerned about it right off the top. So let's see what this did. If we scroll, I can see those trackers move. I got to kind of do it slow because there's going to be a little bit of lag in the video, but not too bad. All right, we'll go to the beginning. Now we need to add some text to it. Now you can do it with just some basic text. We'll just do that first. I'll go to text. Oops, didn't want to have anything selected there. Text. And this is the Reagan library. And I can attach that to the tracker and nothing seems to happen, right? because we haven't told the tracker what to do. So follow along here. In the tracker panel, the second icon here is for operation. And what we're going to do here is a match move. So there's corner positioning, perspective positioning, but we're just going to do a match move. We want what we're adding to match the movement of the building. Okay, there we go. And I can use my position controls, move things up. Let's change the color so we can see that a little bit. There we go. And now if I scrub through it, you can see we've matched the movement of the building to the movement of the text. It's a pretty straightforward way of doing match move, motion tracking, text tracking with somebody. It's pretty simple. It will scale up and back. It will rotate. It'll do a lot of things trying to get the look right. So if you're happy with just flat text, great. But since we're going to go for it here, let's take it to a whole other level. And we're going to do text 3D. So I'm going to take my text 3D. Again, I'll just type in Reagan library. And I'm going to hit 1. So it's over on the left-hand side. And it pretty much looks flat like the other one. So we need to extrude it. We need to add some depth to it. So I go to my extrusion panel here, and I can adjust my extrusion depth. So get something that looks halfway decent there. All right. So far, so good. And now we need to connect that to the tracker. Well, you cannot just drag it on there because what we have before, we have a flat image, a tracker, and a flat image out, but I'm trying to add 3D element to it. That's not going to work. You can't just take a 3D element and put it on another one. So we actually need to render this. So I'm going to create a render 3D node, and now I can connect it. There we go. So now we have the 3D text on here. And I'm going to get back to the beginning so everything is in kind of the right place, or maybe you go to the end so it's a little easier to see. There we go. And now I need to start adjusting my text. So I'm going to adjust my size. And then I can just use the controls up here to put it in a position that I want. Now, if you notice, and I didn't fix this on the edit page, my horizon's got a little tilt to it. We're actually going to match that. So we'll get there in just a moment. But for now, let's see what we got. Okay. Can't really scrub through this too well. Again, the slow machine. But we can see that we now have 3D text mapped. But this 3D text looks kind of crappy, doesn't it? So when we throw 3D text on, it's just giving it a white color and definitely doesn't look that great. I could just change the color, which would be one way of doing it. Really isn't going to get me anything spectacular there. And if we look at some of the other options here, we can change the shape, we can bend it a little bit. We can transform it by the characters. We can rotate individual characters or individual words, and we can paint onto it. So what I want to do is I want to put a texture on it. Maybe something like, oh, I don't know, concrete that matches the building. Well, I didn't spend more than about 30 seconds trying to find something, and I just found just this basic looking, well, it's just kind of a concrete looking thing. So here I'm in my text node. And if I look at my material tab, this is another brush tab, my material type is solid. So that's just going to be a color. If I try and take this graphic and drag it on there, it's not going to do anything. Notice there's no input on top. There's only the one on the left, which is a scene input. Now that's not going to work with an image. But under material, we come over here and we say image. Now, when I change this, watch what happens to the text 3D node. So I'm going to change it to image, and a new input pops up. If we hover over that, it's an image. Perfect. So I'm going to drag that onto there, and now we have texture. It's pretty freaking awesome and awfully fast to do. So I'm going to zoom in here. So we can see we have a texture. It's not the prettiest thing in the world. We need to add some color to it. So what I need to do is add light. Okay, I'm going to hit Shift Space. I'm going to bring up a directional light. Okay, and it's going to drop into place. And we kind of need to make sure that it's in the right spot. If we kind of look at this 3D version of it here, we can see that it's well below it and it's off the height. So I'm just going to spin things around here and move it over. Why isn't anything working, right? Well, I don't have it connected to anything, so that's one. So let's go ahead and connect this to the Merge 3D. Still nothing, right? What are we missing? All right, so what we have to do is enable the text to receive light. And let me find the right panel here. Oops, under the render 3D node. It's late. I shouldn't do videos when it gets this late. So under lighting here on the render 3D, we just need to enable the lighting. Wow, look at that. We now have light on it. And let's get back to our light source. And again, remember I wanted to try and get some of that sunsetty glow going on. And look at that. Now, because this is just a light source, I can treat it like a light source. I can pull it back. I can, do different intensities of it. I can turn down, let's turn down the intensity on here. Let's try and match kind of the shadow side to what that building's getting there. All right, so far so good. And next, I really want to do something about the angle. I'm not thrilled with that horizon tilt. And of course, the right way to do it would be to go and fix the horizon on the edit page. But let's not do that. Let's go ahead and fix it here to match. That way we'll learn how to do one more tool. So I'm going to make some room over here, move some things around. And after the text 3D, Shift Space, Transform 3D. We'll select that guy. Now we have a whole other set of controls to use with this text. So I have my translation, my rotation, pivot points, scaling, all kinds of cool stuff. And if we play around with these, we can see what they do. The big wheels here are very coarse changes. If we just change it within the numbers, and we can just do that just by mousing over and dragging back and forth, that's going to give us much finer control. So let's see what this does. Okay, that's going to rotate it forward and back. So again, if you don't know what they do, just play with them, right? So I'm going to double click in there, hit 0 to put it back. So what does the Y rotation do? Okay, well, let's take a quick look, right? Okay, that's going to rotate it kind of around its axes there, all right? And then the Z rotation. Oops, let's give it a shot there. All right, that's giving us the one we want. So again, don't be afraid to play with stuff. Just get in there and start messing around with it. So now we have the text lined up with the roof, but I don't like it. There's little gaps in there. And even though we can sit here and mess with it and get it right, there's actually a little curve to the front of the building. And it's really going to throw things off unless we curve the text. But let's not do that. Let's figure out another way of making the text look like it's on the building. Okay, so I'm going to go to my text 3D and I'm going to move the text down. So move it down, not too far. Oh, right there looks good. So it's in front of the building, but I want to make it look like it's behind the building. So I'm going to mask off part of it. And I think this is going to be the killer that really makes this thing look good. So I need to bring up shift space polygon. Now I'm doing this so that I'm going to cancel out of this for a second. I'm doing it this way so that you know what the key commands are, but a lot of the things are right here. So I could simply just click on polygon and bring up a polygon tool. So I'm going to have nothing selected, click on polygon, and I'm good to go. So now I'm going to draw a polygon on this rooftop. And what you see, what I'm actually trying to do here is cut the bottom of the text off to match the roof. I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to go from 50% to 100% so I can see what I'm doing here. Notice I've actually cut off the text and not the building. So I'm going to pull this down to the top of the building there. Let's get over to the other side and cut that off and bring that down a little bit. So that's giving me a little bit of a wrap there, which I think is going to look good. And just make it work for you, you know? Again, not major rocket science here, but it will make a big difference. So I'm going to drag that polygon onto the Merge 3D by holding the Shift key down. I'm sorry, the Option key down. That doesn't work. So I'm going to move the polygon over here to the render node, hold, and then connect it to the render node. All right. So what I've done now is got rid of everything. And that's because by default, the polygon is exactly opposite of what I want. So I'm coming over here to the invert. I'm going to click on that. And it's looking a little better. I'm going to go to the end here. And unfortunately, when I did that, I could tell that I was not in the right spot. I was actually in the middle of the frame or middle of the clip somewhere. So now I just need to do some quick fixes here. And then this will track along with everything else. So let's get this text or this polygon back in shape. All right. Now from here, I want to move that text back down again so it's behind the mask. See how this is working now? So where that polygon is, it's going to cut off the text. And if I bring it just a smidge below that line, it's going to look like it's actually behind the front of the building and actually more of a part of the building. So here we have it. Let's go back to the beginning here. And we'll just bring up our polygon there. Double check everything. Oh, shit. Man, did I choke this. So now what I want to do is mask off the front of this building here so it looks like the text is behind that. So So I'm going to see if I can zoom in a little bit and still see everything. All right. I'm at the beginning of my sequence, and I'm going to click the polygon tool. And now I need to make a polygon. And I'm just going to draw along this roof line. And then close it. Now by itself, it hasn't done anything. I have to drag the end of the polygon onto the Render 3D node to make it a mask. Well, now you can see where it's cut it off, but it's the opposite effect of what we want. So I have to go over to the inspector and click on Invert. All right, now we are looking like something here. And if I get off of that, you can see that the text looks much more like it's behind there. I think to nail this effect, I'm just going to move the text down just a hair. Now it all looks like it's behind it. Let's try and just get it. There we go. Okay. Oh, just one more try. There we go. Really happy with that. Looks like it's behind there, and we should be good to go. I'm going to go back to my Edit tab. Now, the reason I'm going back to the Edit tab is so that the Edit tab will cache the footage so it will play back smoother. Again, on a fast machine, you may not need to do that. On this old MacBook Pro, I kind of have to do that. It's going to be pretty slow having this big fusion effect in here. I've got 3D text, I've got textures, I've got lighting, all kinds of stuff going on, and it needs to cache it for it to play smooth. And even then, it's probably not going to play smooth until I actually render it out as a video file. But you can see it's not taking too long. It's not taking minutes or hours to do it. It's only, taking 20, 30 seconds to render this clip. And then we should be able to see the results here in just a second. So hopefully you didn't find this too difficult and you were able to follow along. We did go through a number of different things. We went through trackers, 3D text, masks, and textures and things. So hopefully you got it, and let's see what this looks like. So a little choppy on my machine, but when we render it out, it looked really well. So let's go back and do a quick review. Okay, we have our nodes here, and I'm going to try and zoom in on this stuff so we can see it a little better. Let me try and group these things a little tighter. So let's start from the left. We have our media in. This was our footage. Going from the left here on the bottom, we have our media in 1, which was our actual footage, going to a tracker, which goes to the media out. Above that, we have our texture being put onto our text, which is then being transformed, which was the rotation that we did, being merged with a directional light, going into a renderer with a polygon mask out to the tracker so that it follows the same path, and then again into the media out. So this may look a little complicated, but when you really sit down and follow it through, it comes down to knowing what things connect to what things and in what order. Image goes onto the text goes to a transform. Before you can add anything else to that flow, you need a merge 3D node. And before you can connect it to a two-dimensional flow, it has to go through a 3D renderer, and that's pretty much it. So end result, pretty good. I'm going to bounce over and play the footage one more time so we can take a final look at it again. And I'll go to full screen mode here and get this out of the way. Now in this version, I actually added some backlights, some top lights. I think there was 3 total lights that I did to make this one a complete render, and it looks pretty darn good, I must say. So finally, I'm able to do stuff that I've wanted to do for a long time. Adding motion text like this can really, really boost up your production value of your videos. So I hope you enjoyed watching this. It's been another fantastic Fusion Friday here at Learn Davinci Resolve. If you're so inclined, click on that subscribe button. Always get notified by clicking on the bell icon so that you know when new videos have been announced. You know anyone who would like videos like this, share it with them. Let people learn the knowledge. We don't need to keep this information to ourselves. Always appreciate it, you guys. Love the comments, love the feedback. Definitely like the suggestions. Keep them coming for new videos, and I will knock them out as quickly as I can. We have tons of stuff coming up. We have more giveaways coming up. All kinds of cool things in the works here at Learn Davinci Resolve. So thanks for watching, and I will catch you next time. Bye-bye.